Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 91. How expensive is your box? So as you know, all month we've been talking about the concept of courage, about riding the winds of change as we put in motion some of the wonderful motivation that we've been building the last couple months. But I think we need to look at how courage is first all about facing our past, how we got to where we are today, and how over many years you may also have been creating a box that has become your comfort zone and keeping you from being able to really step out there and live what's possible for you, instead of settling for what you know and what you deem as safe. So what is this box that I'm talking about, and why am I asking you, is yours expensive? The box is what we construct. The box is what we construct that we can sit in comfortably and hide in, if not miserably, to protect ourselves from outside criticism, rejection, failure, abandonment, and ultimately disappointment. So it isn't just about letting others down, but it's also about being let down by others, by circumstances, and by life. I've used the box analogy for a long time when I've done empowerment groups, and I find it to be one of the most powerful exercises I've ever done, mainly because it was so emotional and so raw and real, yet also profound and revealing. Because I think your box represents your self-concept that you have constructed over the years, bit by bit, little by little, circumstance by circumstance. I think your box is what you think and believe about yourself. So we have experiences, we hear things, we see things, we experience things, and then we draw conclusions which form our beliefs. And we've talked about that here on the show before. And you know what I'm going to say next, is that your beliefs and your values drive the bus, whether you are cognizant of that or not. Your box is where you feel not good enough to break it open, expand it, or change it, or throw it away. It usually comprises fears about your abilities, your intellect, your talents, your belief in yourself, your confidence in terms of whether you could pull something off and do it well. Your box is your comfort zone. It's where you don't risk. It's where you have routine, you play it safe, you think you know what the outcomes are. You're pretty successful in your box. Usually we are good at what we're doing. We may not be happy or challenged, but it's comfortable because we're not being challenged. Challenge brings risk. Challenge brings apprehension. Challenge brings possible failure, which is what we're trying to avoid. A lot of people with perfectionistic tendencies will love to create a perfect box. It gives them a false sense of control, and it reduces the likelihood in their mind of failing. So how does your box get created? Well, obviously, it began a very long time ago, as soon as you were old enough to hear messages about yourself and take them in and believe them. Now, 4-year-olds don't believe any of this, and they don't care what you say, which is why we always joke on here, we want to get back to being 4. 4-year-olds are very in touch with who they really, really are. Your box gets created by, I think, disowning the truth. Remember last week we talked about putting parts of you on a shelf since they wouldn't be tolerated, or you feared they wouldn't be tolerated by others? Well, every time you decide to do that, you disconnected from your true self, from what you're really capable of, what you really love, what you really are passionate about, what you really want for your life. And this lowers your self-confidence because you don't feel genuine. You don't feel whole. You are denying what is ultimately true about you and what you enjoy. I think it brings layers of low-level anxiety, with the icing on the cake being the occasional panic attack, because you're fighting yourself. Part of you knows exactly who you are, and the other part is afraid to own that. So disowning the truth about you, the real truth. The truth that you're afraid to share with others. Another way we construct the box, and this is a big part of it, is messages others told you either directly or indirectly, or they insinuated, or they used innuendo. However you got the message doesn't matter. It can be hurtful when it's given to us directly, right between the eyes. And intimated can be almost just as bad. Whenever it is global in front of others, I think it is far more imprinting. Like reading in front of the class in second grade and getting laughed at. And the teacher giving you the sense that maybe you're not good at this. So when it's global, when there's more than one person in front of you when it's happening, it's far more devastating and humiliating and imprinting. Your first go-to might be, well, I'm not doing that again. So these are your parents, your siblings, your teachers, your coaches, your music teachers, other kids. They told you about you, whether they meant to or not. Negative messages like, you're not smart enough for that. You're not tall enough for basketball. You're too fat. You're too skinny. You're too lazy. You don't have enough money. You'll never be able to do it. You're not disciplined enough. The list goes on and on. They're limiting messages. They're awful, and they're shaming, and they're fear-based, and no one ever has the right to tell you about you. Maybe people didn't really feel that way, but you had a bad experience where maybe you didn't do so well, and so you locked the door shut without even asking others what they really thought. And that turns into messages you told yourself. Well, they wouldn't want me to try again anyway. This is fear protecting you from being hurt. Maybe you told yourself it's not good to risk. What if I'm wrong? What if I screw up? What if I fail? What if I'm disappointed? What if it doesn't turn out the way I was really dreaming and hoping? What if I can't possibly make that happen? No one wants to see that or hear what I have to say anyway. The imposter syndrome. What if I'm too old? It's too late. I'm too broke. I live too far away. I don't have time. All of these limiting messages that may or may not even be true are the ones that you have as the walls of your box, keeping you there. Another more subtle way that we've talked about here on the show before that others can help us create that box of comfort zone, that box is questioning. And they could be from the same people we mentioned or anyone else. When people said, and not in a rude way perhaps, but they said, what would you want to do that for? Are you sure you can handle that? What if this happens? What if that happens? If. Basically giving you the sense that you should really doubt yourself. Like even if you have this extraordinary but crazy idea, then you share it with people and their own fear and their own sense of self-limitation, their own wanting you to be okay and be safe. Your parents and other adults may have done that, not because they were trying to thwart your success, but just because they didn't want you to be disappointed. They wanted you to be safe. They were trying to fix you, right? But that questioning made you doubt and doubt yourself. When we are creative, when we have a new idea, we are so vulnerable. We are so vulnerable and fragile and so open to absorb whatever anyone tells us, especially people who maybe we look up to or want to be like or respect or we love. We want their approval, like our parents and our teachers and our coaches. We are looking to them for the truth. We're looking for the mirror reflection. The problem is when you get a distortion that is limiting and may not even be true. You know, over the years and still, I have had moments when I have become so furious and sad at the same time when my clients share the lies that they believed that kept them from using what I thought were their true talents because they were so evident and they kept them from honoring what they really were passionate about. It only took one or two times for the band teacher to say, I'm sorry, I don't think you're talented enough to do this, and they dropped it. What if all of the gifted, famous people that we have come to know and safely assumed that they just were applauded from the first time they ever picked up an instrument or sang or painted or played that sport, when we don't know that? Can you imagine if we knew the truth about a lot of them where that wasn't always the case? If they had given in, we may never have been able to experience and enjoy and be inspired by them using their gifts, by using their passion to create change in the world, by going against what is standard and commonplace to create something different and new. Negative messaging and fear and not feeling good enough are so damaging, and we truly underestimate the damage that it has done to so many of us. As a therapist and a coach, I can tell you I have listened to so many sad stories that didn't have to happen. And when I think about how your life could have been so different today if that had not happened to you, and more importantly, if you had chosen not to believe the lies, where might you be today? How have they hurt you? How have they held you back? How have they made you afraid to step out there and be the real you, to risk? There's the price. The price of your box. What you paid dearly in years of maybe not feeling fulfilled, not being happy, hiding parts of who you are. That's a big price tag. Here's some truth about this. Now, it's really normal for you to be a little angry and defensive when you finally realize, or a good friend calls you out on your box. I actually want you to be angry. The angrier you are, the better, because I want you to be angrier than your fear, angrier than your shame, because maybe that will be the catalyst to get you moving. Maybe that's what you need to be right now, and that's okay. I don't want you to beat yourself up, though. That's going to make your box even smaller. Acknowledge it, love yourself through it, and keep moving. More truth is that only actual experience in the right environments and with your confidence back enough will you really know what's possible or not, because right now you don't. You have to look at the variables carefully. Right environments means healthy people, healthy supports where they have no other agenda but for what is for your highest good and to be honest with you and to support you. This is not unhealthy people who don't have good self-esteem. More truth is you can rewrite the ending to your story. You know, you have millions of little choices that you can even start today owning and exercising. I also don't believe that things would not be put on your heart and stay there if it wasn't meant to be somehow. I just don't believe that. And I know you may not see the way now, but I encourage you to keep your mind just open, just to see what plays out. So that is some truth. So what we're trying to do is contrast what may actually be true against maybe some of the lies that you believed. Lies you told yourself, lies others told you, that hurt your self-esteem, that hurt your efficacy, your belief that you could do things, and also kept you from taking responsibility for your own happiness. So I want to ask you, what I think are some powerful questions that might be difficult to hear. So just brace yourself for that. If you're in a space right now where you can write your answers down, great. But if you're not, I just want you to see what answers come up in your heart. These will be available as a printout and the download in your newsletter for this episode. So don't worry about it if you're doing something else. Just, listen to what you can and then print out later and maybe do some journaling around it. Here's the first one. If you were to look at who and what helped create your box, what feelings come up when you really think about that? Maybe you're remembering those awful moments right now. When you heard those negative messages. What are some of the self-limiting beliefs have you been playing out in your life? Even today, perhaps. How have they impacted you? How have they kept you from having what you want? And what would you like to tell them or do to those beliefs right now as you feel the cost of having them and believing them? And finally, in what ways do you think your life would improve if you were to start negating those beliefs by living differently and thinking differently about yourself? Okay. So let the answers just sink in for a moment. I think this is how you can get more and more in touch and stay connected to your core truth. I want you to know it's okay if you had some anxiety come up with your answers. It usually does when we're looking at things we may not want to accept. Just don't let that shame come up. Kick it away. Remember, it's only going to keep you stuck. You can take responsibility for having believed these beliefs and played them out without beating yourself up. Because remember, there's context. If you could have been stronger, you would have. If you had more loving support around you and more challenging support, you would have done differently. It's not all on you. I want you to know that you today finally have permission. You have permission to feel free, to choose, to walk away from toxic relationships, bosses, and other environments that are holding you back and keeping you from who you really are meant to be. You are free to trash, burn, and bury those old lies that you know have been holding you back. And frankly, deep down, you don't believe them anymore anyway. You're just afraid to admit that. You are free to be scared as hell, yet excited, to have a second and maybe a third chance to really live your life. It is never too late. You're free to take risks, to change your mind, to screw it up as part of the learning and keep it moving and keep growing and learning. Remember, nothing is for naught. You're free to trust your gut. You have permission to trust your gut, your heart, and the yearning you've had for so long. You have permission to rewrite your story, do a new narrative, and to hell with those who can't support you. They may be scared, grieving, or just have low self-esteem themselves, that they're going to feel a little threatened by you changing and changing things for yourself. God forbid you make them look at their own damn box. You have permission to take your time doing this, Remember, we expand our self-concept a little bit at a time with each new experience. You'll do the next big hurdle when you're good and ready. On the other hand, you have permission to not want to wait too long because life is short. Maybe you've got fewer years ahead than behind, and you don't want to waste a precious moment, and that's okay too. Some of the tools that you can use to change all this is the first one. When you take each belief or message, first ask yourself, how do I really know this is true? Like, what am I basing this on? A big piece of that is we want to look at our sources. If that was your sister who was so jealous of you because she hated herself, had to tell you smack about yourself that wasn't really true, you might want to think about that. Versus 5 people who don't know you from Adam said, I'm sorry, I don't think you can sing. Okay. So look at the sources, and I want you to look at any contrasting factual evidence over time. Like other people in other times in your life told you something completely opposite, but maybe you brushed it off, you minimized it, you did whatever with it, you forgot about it. I want you to take stock this week and think about when were times when people came up and said, you know, you actually have a beautiful voice, or we think you're really smart, or we love how you do this, or I wish I could do that as well as you can. I want you to think about that, and I want you to write them down. There is your evidence. Look, all these people have no reason to lie to you. People close to you who may lose something if you succeed, unfortunately, have the most reason to lie to you because they're scared. Another really good tool is to spend time thinking, feeling, crying about, and journaling, sharing with a safe person. How would I feel if I never took a chance on my dreams? Like maybe you've been saying to yourself, oh, I'll do it. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. How would it feel to at least try to do something that I wanted for my life? That's what I want you to ask yourself. How would I feel if I never took a chance on my dreams? What kind of regret would I have? Sadness, anger at myself? To at least try to do something that I wanted for my life. Another really helpful tool that clients bring up all the time, so I think this is just a thing that the universe does for us, so I believe in it, because over many years I've heard this so many times, and it's so congruent with everything else that's going on for them at the moment. Okay, so what signs have you been noticing lately? From things you've heard, you've seen, people in your life keep mentioning. Hey, what about this? What about that? Have you thought about this? Maybe you should, right? That point to the fact that maybe it's time. Like, I don't think this would keep popping up for you everywhere, and you're noticing it and not denying it and kicking it away and pretending it's something else. If it wasn't time and you weren't getting ready to be ready to make some big changes in your life. I've just witnessed this so many times over the years. It's got to be true. So take that as comfort. Take that as guidance. Remember that. Write that down. Talk about it like, oh my gosh, that's the 3rd person this week. To assure yourself that that means it's time and you can do this. Things will start lining up and showing up for you if it's time. Not that you're not going to have obstacles, but you're going to have guidance and whispers and the support of others when it's time. How many times, and I have a client right now where she finally just walked away from a toxic relationship, and we were joking that people are coming out of the woodwork, and I see this all the time, to help them in like amazing ways. Amazing ways. There's no coincidence here. Things that they didn't even tell their friends that they needed. Their friends showed up and said, here I am. There's affirmation after affirmation that they're doing the right thing by making this big scary change. So know that that will show up for you. So speaking of time, it is time. It's time to finally stand up for yourself. It's time to stop settling for less than you deserve, financially or psychologically. Like we talked about last week, it's time to set some boundaries, telling people, after you tell yourself, your truth. It's time to get disciplined with yourself about staying in your box and doing sabotaging things that you conveniently have to stay in there. It's time to stop lying to yourself and everyone else. You know you can, if you get quiet, find the answers that are really going to help you see the obstacle or obstacles as actual stepping stones to get you where you need to go instead of an impediment. A difficult boss is going to help you work on your assertiveness. A frustration with your current job is going to make you go look for a better one. Maybe not having enough money right now will make you more disciplined anyway, which is what you wanted. So now you can save for your new side hustle you've been putting off. You know, maybe the toxic people in your life are there to teach you what you deserve, which is not to be treated like that. And maybe you needed that to get so frustrated and so pissed off to want something different. Sometimes we need that, guys. It's not the best way to go about it. Later on down the road, you're going to be far more proactive. But maybe right now you're not strong enough. Strong enough in terms of not feeling like you have the right to love yourself, to honor yourself, to say enough's enough. You've been so brainwashed over the years by unhealthy people and bad circumstances that eventually we absorb it and believe it. So that we don't feel strong enough. So sometimes, we got to get pissed off and get sick and tired of being sick and tired before we do anything. That's all right. If that's what gets you there the first time, so be it. It's going to be what brings you through the door. I know when you get on the other side and it's safer and it's kinder and it's more creative and loving and supportive, you're not going to stay there. You're going to be so much more proactive and you're going to enjoy taking actually more responsibility for your own happiness. That box gave everyone else so much power over your life, and I am so sorry. But at any moment, you get to take your power back whenever you're ready. So today we talked about the box that you may have been living in, and one that might be constraining you and keeping you from living fully. We talked about how others certainly helped you construct your box, maybe out of their own selfishness, their own shame, their own fear. Maybe they just wanted to protect you. But now it's time to look at how small and cramped and dark your box might be. Maybe you're outgrowing it, and it's keeping you from expanding and growing into the authentic you. Thank you for joining me today. May you be kind to yourself as you look at your box. Stay healthy, grounded, and hold on to hope. Find some good in yourself and in others and in life this week. Be sure to check the show notes at ownitpowercast.com. If you want the download from the newsletter, just sign up. You'll get it every Tuesday. And you can access all of the older episodes and downloads there as well. All right, so pay it forward. Keep loving you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.